Okay, concept check 1.2. So first is summarize the phases of the business cycle. So the um, so expansion is above the trend line. The economy is growing. Output and consumption are increasing. Peak, we're topping out. And then contraction, we're still above the trend line, but the economy's production and consumption are declining. Downturn is once we get below the trend line. The trend line is the think of that, it's the average. So if we did a regression, that regression effectively draws the line through those economic growth rates over time. So trough, again, we're still below the trend line, and we're bottoming out. And then recovery is when the production and consumption start to increase again. And then once we get above the trend line, the process starts all over again. So, two statistics that help predict the future direction of the economy. So the index of leading economic indicators, or the LEI, or Consumer Confidence Index. Both look at various economic items and that are that indicate the direction of the economy and so forth. In my mind, consumer confidence is by far the most important of any of these because, as I mentioned previously, if consumers are not confident, they're not buying. So they don't make major purchases. They buy essentials, so forth. So an example of how inflation affects income and consumption. So when the price of oil is effectively a double whammy on most people, if you think of it. So the price of oil increases, gas increases. So people are commuting and so forth, spend more on gas, so they have less to spend on other items. And then transportation costs increase, so the prices of the goods that they purchase go up. So they're hit doubly when the price of oil increases and it hits gasoline and so forth. So consumers' remaining income will purchase less. So not only is they have less disposable income, and then they have less real income as well. So think like an economist. So opportunity cost is the cost of the decision measured by the value of the next best alternative that you're giving up. So when you're when you're buying a car or so forth, or a house or so forth, what am I giving up to do this? So we think that is our opportunity cost. When a manufacturing facility enters, decides to produce a certain product, then they're giving up the opportunity to produce something else. So it's a trade-off. You're giving up one thing for another. Marginal utility or cost is the usefulness or cost of the next increment of something. So the marginal cost may increase, as consumption increases. Utility, on the other hand, utility decreases typically as we consume an item. The simple example, a couple of them here. You go to a restaurant and you buy a steak. The utility or the enjoyment you get out of that steak, if it's a good steak, can be really, really high. But if they were to offer you another steak, the utility that you would get would likely be significantly less. So, most of us wouldn't enjoy eating two steaks. Um, same with purchasing a vehicle. So you purchase if you're for an individual purchasing one vehicle, that's an essential. That's an exciting proposition that when you're think about when you're a kid and you get a new vehicle and so forth. But a a second vehicle, if you you've most of your utility comes from the fact that you have transportation. A second vehicle may give you some enjoyment, but it's not necessarily going to give you the same level of utility. And next, we have marginal tax rate. Marginal tax rate is the tax rate at which your last dollar or your next is taxed or your next dollar will be taxed. So best kinds of income, tax exempt income. Next best will be tax sheltered. So tax exempt, the best example of that is municipal bonds. For the most part, you don't pay income tax on those bonds. We'll stop there and we'll look at some time value money calculations, pre-tax and after tax.